Now, what do you do when groups, and that's probably the big difference, when groups are very extreme in their thinking, and we're talking mostly about fundamentalist groups that wants to change things in a totally different way, that they will not go into a discussion. This is very different of subnational conflict. Even some of the worst, like at the moment between Ethiopia and Tigray, you have troops there. You can still have negotiation, the classical negotiation that you have. You can hold negotiation, but how do you hold negotiation with ISIS? How do you hold a negotiation with groups like that? You have groups in between, like the Taliban's, who are typically group that do a little of no negotiation and cannot accept the society, but still have elements of negotiation. And that's what the Malians believe. They believe they can negotiate with ISIS and others, but they will see that they cannot. This is not possible. In Nigeria, it was not possible. In those places, it was not possible. Those people have a sort of the worst of anarchism, right? They think that by destroying the world, they will actually recreate a new world that will be better. The worry is that you start to have a little bit of that on the international scene also today, right? And so you also have government that now starts to behave like that, of saying, the rules of the games in the world are really not they're not what interests us. We have practically another vision of who we are, and table of negotiation of things like that don't work. So that's, I think, one of the big challenges of the world today, is that contrary to a lot of the conflicts that you had during the Cold War that were about regime, you still had a possibility to negotiate. But today, there's no more possibilities, in many cases, no more possibilities to negotiate. So then what you have to do is, that's where even the security sector becomes much more central. The sort of international alliance you can build are very central, and accepting that you need to do a lot for a certain population. But the problem is that some of those groups, extremist groups, they're not the poorest, actually, those people. It's just in their mind that they've disconnected some. And even if you tell them that you will provide a lot of funding in their neighborhood, they will not. But this is the extreme, by the way, of the groups, is the groups that the French were trying to target or others were trying to target. You still have undermining under that a lot of the issue that are the classical development issues. For example, in Mali, one of the big groups today is the Katiba Massina, which is actually Tuareg groups, right? It's a Tuareg group. It's a Pearl group, a Fulani group, right? A group of people who were herders. And these herders were constantly, they couldn't adapt because of the development of agriculture and the fact that with the drought, their cattle had to be more and more to the south. And so there were constant tension with the agriculturists. And they had a sense that the state was on the side of the agriculturists, that the state was not on their side. And then they went in to follow up the jihadist movement, because they also had in their history Osman Dan Fodio, many big conquerors that were actually jihadists at their time in the 14th century or 16th century. So they moved into that. So I still believe that those groups, which are not ISIS, you can still find ways to discuss with them, or with actually some of the people who follow them. But the ones that are just move to the too extreme, like ISIS or Al Qaeda in the Sahel, just these groups are very, very difficult to deal with, and that's one of the big problems we have with conflict today.